The city of Florence, Italy, holds a unique charm, where every brick and stone seems to whisper secrets of a time long past. It's a place where history feels alive in the very air, and every corner seems to unveil a new glimpse into the Renaissance. The Arno River winds its way through the heart of the city, reflecting the grandeur of cathedrals and palaces that line its banks. It's here that people flock to admire the iconic Ponte Vecchio, to lose themselves in the vast expanse of the Uffizi Gallery, and to stand in awe before the masterpiece of Michelangelo's David. Amidst this historical beauty lies the grand estate of a powerful and wealthy businessman named Vittorio De Luca. Vittorio is not merely a wealthy man. He's a figure who has shaped the modern business landscape of Florence and beyond. His estate, known as Villa De Luca, is almost a city landmark in itself, a sprawling villa that dates back to the late 18th century, complete with manicured gardens, marble fountains, and intricate frescoes adorning the walls. It's a home that speaks of old money, of generations of accumulated wealth and influence, and of an unbroken legacy passed down through the De Luca family. Vittorio De Luca is a man in his late 60s with sharp features and a steely gaze that commands respect. He moves with the assurance of someone accustomed to authority, his presence felt in every room he enters. Vittorio is known for his ironclad discipline, his shrewd business acumen, and his unwavering commitment to his family's honor and legacy. To the outside world, he is the epitome of a successful patriarch, a man who built his empire with his bare hands and who expects nothing less than perfection from everyone around him, especially his family. He lives by a strict code instilled in him by his own father and believes that the family name is the most precious inheritance one can pass on. Vittorio's life is defined by his adherence to tradition and order. His daily routine is meticulously planned, from his early morning exercise in the garden to the business meetings held in his luxurious study, where portraits of his forefathers look down on him as if in constant judgment. His decisions impact not only the De Luca enterprises, but also the social and political circles of Florence. Those who work for him know that he does not tolerate weakness or failure, and his expectations for his only son are no different. Leonardo De Luca, Vittorio's son, is in his late 20s, a well-educated and thoughtful young man who has been groomed to inherit his father's vast empire. On the surface, Leonardo has everything one could desire: a life of privilege, the best education money could buy, and access to the world's most influential circles. He is charming and intelligent, fluent in multiple languages, and respected by his peers. Yet, beneath the polished exterior lies a young man who feels deeply conflicted, trapped between the life he's expected to lead and the one he desires for himself. Leonardo grew up surrounded by the luxuries of Villa De Luca, but as he matured, he began to see beyond the walls of his gilded cage. Despite his father's strict upbringing, he developed a sense of empathy and a desire to connect with the world outside of his privileged sphere. He's drawn to the stories of everyday people, the workers who labor in his father's factories, the street vendors who line the bustling piazzas, and the artists who pour their souls into their creations. While his father believes in the old ways, in maintaining alliances through strategic marriages and preserving family wealth at all costs, Leonardo dreams of a different life, one where love and compassion matter more than status or wealth. These differences create an underlying tension between father and son. Leonardo's views are a source of frustration for Vittorio, who sees them as signs of weakness and naivety. For Vittorio, Life is about making the tough decisions and prioritizing the family's honor above all else. He believes that success and power are the only true measures of a man, and he is determined to mold his son into a worthy heir, regardless of the cost. However, Leonardo's growing discontent with this worldview becomes more evident with each passing day, leading to heated arguments and silent resentments between them. The pressure mounts when Vittorio begins insisting that Leonardo must marry someone from a prestigious family. Vittorio has already started arranging introductions to the daughters of Florence's elite, heiresses and socialites whose families control fortunes that could strengthen the De Luca empire. Each introduction is carefully planned, with lavish dinners held at the villa and meetings set up to discuss potential alliances. Vittorio sees these matches not as personal relationships, but as strategic moves in the complex game of power and influence that has defined his life. Leonardo, however, remains adamantly opposed to the idea of an arranged marriage. He listens politely to his father's propositions, but refuses to commit to any of them. He knows what his father wants, but his heart longs for something real, something built on trust and genuine affection rather than wealth or convenience. He tries to make his father understand, speaking passionately about the importance of marrying for love and choosing a partner based on shared values and connection. But Vittorio dismisses these notions as romantic fantasies, unsuitable for someone in their position. To Vittorio, love is an indulgence, a luxury that only those who have fulfilled their duties can afford. As Leonardo's resistance grows, he finds solace in escaping the confines of the villa to explore the city on his own. He spends his afternoons wandering through Florence's narrow streets, seeking out places that his father would never think to visit. It's during one of these solitary walks that Leonardo's life takes an unexpected turn. One day, as he meanders through a quieter part of the city, he stumbles upon a young woman sitting alone by the steps of a small church. Her name is Sofia Rossi, a young woman in her early 20s with dark, curly hair and a delicate frame that speaks of hardship. She's a beggar, her clothes worn and frayed, but her demeanor carries a quiet dignity. As Leonardo approaches, he notices that she's reading an old book, her eyes moving over the pages with an intensity that intrigues him. Curious, he stops and strikes up a conversation, asking her about the book. Sofia looks up, her eyes sharp and wary, but she answers his questions with surprising eloquence. Over the following days, Leonardo returns to the same spot, eager to learn more about this intriguing young woman. Their conversations grow longer and more in-depth, covering topics ranging from literature to philosophy to the state of the world. Leonardo is struck by Sofia's intelligence and resilience. She speaks of her life with a candidness that catches him off guard, of losing her family, of struggling to survive on the streets, and of finding solace in the words of poets and philosophers. Despite her circumstances, she holds on to her dreams with a determination that resonates deeply with Leonardo. Sofia's perspective challenges Leonardo's understanding of the world. She sees life not as a series of transactions or power struggles, but as a journey marked by moments of beauty and connection. Her compassion for others, even those who have wronged her, inspires Leonardo to question the rigid beliefs instilled in him by his father. For the first time, he begins to see people not through the lens of status or wealth, but as individuals with stories, struggles, and aspirations of their own. However, word of Leonardo's growing friendship with a beggar does not escape the notice of Vittorio. When he learns of his son's interactions with Sofia, his reaction is one of disbelief and anger. Vittorio cannot comprehend why his son would waste his time associating with someone so far beneath their social standing. He views Sofia as a threat to their family's honor and reputation, a stain that must be removed before it causes irreparable damage. Convinced that Leonardo's actions are a sign of rebellion, Vittorio decides to take matters into his own hands. Determined to regain control, Vittorio confronts Leonardo, demanding an explanation for his behavior. When Leonardo tries to defend his choices, speaking passionately about seeing people for who they truly are, Vittorio's patience wears thin. Unable to sway his son through reason or persuasion, Vittorio makes a drastic decision. In a voice that leaves no room for negotiation, he issues an ultimatum. If Leonardo insists on defying him, then he will be forced to marry Sofia. It's a punishment designed not only to humiliate his son, but to teach him a lesson about the consequences of defying tradition and authority. The ultimatum leaves Leonardo reeling. He never expected his father to go to such lengths to assert his control, and the demand feels like a betrayal of everything he holds dear. But as he contemplates his options, Leonardo realizes that he cannot let fear dictate his choices. He knows that agreeing to the marriage would mean defying not only his father's expectations, but also the expectations of society itself. It is a risk, and the consequences are unknown. But Leonardo finds himself drawn to the idea of facing this challenge head-on. After days of soul-searching, Leonardo decides to approach Sofia with his father's ultimatum. He seeks her out at the church steps, feeling both anxious and determined. As he explains the situation to her, he watches her face closely, searching for any sign of what she's thinking. To his surprise, Sofia listens in silence, her expression unreadable. When he finishes, she looks at him for a long moment before responding. Her answer is simple yet profound. She agrees to the marriage not because she desires it, but because she sees in it an opportunity for both of them to redefine their futures. She understands that this union is not about love, at least not yet, but about two people choosing to face the unknown together. And so, with the weight of their choices hanging heavily over them, Leonardo and Sofia prepare to face the challenges that lie ahead, not as enemies or pawns in a game of power, but as partners determined to create something meaningful out of the chaos of their circumstances. Leonardo finds himself returning day after day to the same quiet corner of the city, where Sofia sits by the steps of the small, weathered church. Her presence has become a part of his daily life, and though their conversations often start with casual remarks about the weather or passing observations, they inevitably drift towards deeper subjects: books, art, and the nature of human resilience. There is an unspoken bond forming between them, a connection that transcends their vastly different worlds. Leonardo is fascinated by the way Sofia speaks of the poets and philosophers she reads, drawing parallels between their words and her own experiences. Sofia, in turn, is intrigued by Leonardo's willingness to listen, a rarity in a world where people often look past her as if she were invisible. She notices the way he reacts to her stories, not with pity, but with genuine interest and empathy. Despite his privileged upbringing, he seems to understand the nuances of her life, the small moments of joy amidst hardship, and the hope that keeps her going. Over time, Sofia begins to trust him, sharing fragments of her past, her childhood memories, her parents' struggles, and the heartbreak of losing everything. One afternoon, as they sit together on the church steps, Leonardo asks her what she dreams of. Sofia hesitates, caught off guard by the question. It's a luxury she rarely allows herself. to dream of something beyond mere survival. But as she gazes at the sky, she speaks softly of her love for painting, something she hasn't had the means to pursue for years. She describes the feeling of losing herself in the colors and strokes, of expressing emotions that words can't capture. It's a passion that she's kept buried, like a secret too fragile to be exposed to the harshness of her reality. Leonardo listens, captivated. He hadn't known this side of her, a budding artist whose talent has been stifled by circumstance. Moved by her words, he makes a quiet promise to himself to help her rediscover this lost part of her life. The idea of giving her the opportunity to paint again fills him with a sense of purpose, something he hasn't felt in a long time. Their conversations do not go unnoticed. Word spreads quickly among the villa staff and those who keep an eye on the De Luca family's affairs. Vittorio learns of his son's growing friendship with a beggar, and the news is met with a mix of anger and disbelief. For a man like Vittorio, who has spent his life meticulously curating his family's image, the idea of his son associating with someone like Sofia is not only unacceptable, it's a direct threat to everything he stands for. Determined to put an end to what he sees as a dangerous distraction, Vittorio summons Leonardo to his study. It's a room filled with the weight of history, where portraits of De Luca ancestors line the walls, their stern faces seeming to judge the living from their frames. Vittorio stands by the window, looking out at the estate's gardens, his back turned to his son as he speaks. His voice is cold and controlled, but there is a barely restrained fury beneath the surface. He demands to know why Leonardo is wasting his time with a beggar, questioning his judgment and his commitment to the family's legacy. When Leonardo tries to explain, speaking of Sofia's intelligence and her resilience, Vittorio cuts him off, dismissing his words as the ramblings of a naive idealist. To Vittorio, Sofia represents everything that threatens their family's carefully constructed reputation: poverty, weakness, and an unpredictable element that could unravel years of hard work. Unable to make his son see reason through words alone, Vittorio makes a decision that he believes will teach Leonardo a harsh but necessary lesson. He issues an ultimatum. If Leonardo is so determined to defy him, then he must marry Sofia. Vittorio expects the prospect of such a marriage to shock his son into submission, to make him realize the folly of his actions. In his mind, it's the ultimate punishment, a way to force Leonardo to confront the reality of his choices. But instead of backing down, Leonardo surprises his father by agreeing to the marriage. It's a decision born not out of rebellion, but out of a sense of integrity and a desire to take control of his own life. Vittorio is left stunned, unable to comprehend why his son would willingly go through with such a foolish and reckless act. After making up his mind, Leonardo seeks out Sofia once more, this time with a heavy heart and an uncertain future weighing on his shoulders. When he finds her, he explains his father's ultimatum, struggling to put into words the complexity of the situation. He tells her that he understands if she wants to refuse, if she doesn't want to be a part of this charade orchestrated by his father. But Sofia listens quietly, her expression thoughtful and serious. After a long silence, she agrees. It's not a decision she takes lightly, and she knows that their union will be met with judgment and scorn from many. But Sofia also sees an opportunity in this unexpected twist of fate, a chance to break free from the cycle of poverty and to reclaim her identity as an artist. It's not a conventional path, and it's fraught with uncertainty, but it's better than being stuck in a life defined by loss and struggle. In the days that follow, preparations for the unconventional wedding begin. The news spreads quickly through Florence's social circles, sparking rumors and whispers among the city's elite. Many are appalled by the idea of a De Luca marrying a beggar, viewing it as an affront to tradition and a scandal waiting to happen. Others are simply curious, eager to see how this unlikely story will unfold. Despite the gossip and judgment, Leonardo and Sofia face the challenges together. Their marriage is not one of love, but of mutual understanding and a shared determination to chart their own course. They start living together at a modest house on the edge of the De Luca estate, far from the grandeur of the villa. It's a simple home, but it feels like a fresh start, a place where they can begin to rebuild their lives on their own terms. Leonardo encourages Sofia to paint, providing her with the materials she needs to rediscover her passion. At first, her work is tentative, as if she's afraid to let herself hope for something more. But as she gains confidence, her art begins to flourish. She pours her emotions into her paintings, capturing scenes of everyday life in Florence, moments of quiet beauty amidst the chaos of the city. Her work becomes an outlet for all the feelings she kept bottled up for so long: grief, anger, hope, and the longing for a better life. One day, while browsing a small art supply shop, Sofia catches the attention of a young gallery owner named Matteo Conti. Matteo is a rising figure in the art world, known for discovering new talent and pushing the boundaries of traditional art. He sees something unique in Sofia's work, a raw honesty and a perspective that challenges the viewer to see the world through her eyes. He approaches her, asking about her art and offering to display her work in a small gallery he runs in the heart of Florence. At first, Sofia is hesitant, unsure if her paintings are worthy of being displayed alongside those of established artists. But Matteo's encouragement and genuine interest in her work give her the confidence she needs to take the leap. With Leonardo's unwavering support, she agrees to exhibit her paintings, marking a significant turning point in her journey. The opening night of the exhibition is a nerve-wracking experience for Sofia. She stands in the gallery, surrounded by her own creations, feeling exposed in a way she never has before. The people who walk through the doors are not the wealthy patrons she had expected, but a mix of artists, writers, and curious onlookers drawn in by Matteo's reputation for showcasing unconventional talent. They study her paintings with quiet intensity, and for the first time, Sofia sees her own story reflected in the eyes of strangers. As the night goes on, she begins to relax, realizing that she's not alone in her journey. Matteo introduces her to other artists who share their own stories of struggle and perseverance, creating a sense of community that Sofia has longed for. Leonardo watches from a distance, feeling a sense of pride in Sofia's accomplishments and gratitude for the chance to be a part of her journey. Meanwhile, Vittorio's longtime friend, Gianni Bertolli, begins to take notice of the changes happening within the De Luca family. Gianni has known Vittorio for decades, and he understands the man's rigid adherence to tradition better than anyone. But as he watches Leonardo and Sofia navigate their unconventional path, Gianni starts to question the very beliefs he and Vittorio have held for so long. Gianni sees the genuine bond forming between Leonardo and Sofia, a partnership built not on social expectations, but on a shared resilience and a willingness to embrace the unknown. He is struck by Sofia's transformation from a beggar to an emerging artist, and by Leonardo's unwavering commitment to supporting her despite the obstacles they face. Gianni begins to wonder if perhaps there is more to life than preserving tradition and maintaining appearances. Over time, Gianni's doubts grow, leading to quiet but meaningful conversations with Vittorio. At first, Vittorio dismisses his friend's observations, clinging to his belief that his son's actions are a temporary rebellion. But as the months go by, he finds it harder to ignore the evidence before him. Sofia's success as an artist, Leonardo's newfound sense of purpose, and Gianni's gentle challenges to his worldview all force Vittorio to confront the possibility that he may have been wrong. As Vittorio grapples with these conflicting emotions, he decides to attend one of Sofia's exhibitions, hoping to understand what has captivated so many others. It's a difficult decision, one that goes against everything he has believed in for so long. But as he walks through the gallery, surrounded by Sofia's paintings, something shifts within him. He stops in front of a particular piece, a painting that depicts a young woman standing on the steps of a small church, her face turned towards the sky. There is a quiet strength in her expression, a resilience that speaks of hope amidst hardship. Vittorio feels a pang of recognition, not just of Sofia's face, but of something deeper, a memory of a different time and a different version of himself. For the first time, he begins to see Sofia not as a threat to his family's legacy, but as a person with her own story, her own struggles, and her own place in the world. It is a moment of revelation for Vittorio, one that forces him to confront the choices he has made and the values he has clung to for so long. As he stands before the painting, he feels the weight of his actions bearing down on him, and he realizes that perhaps it's not too late to change. The revelation for Vittorio at Sofia's art exhibition lingers long after he leaves the gallery. He returns to Villa De Luca with a mind unsettled, haunted by a past he thought he had long buried. That night, he can't sleep. He sits in his study, the familiar surroundings offering no comfort. The quiet house, usually a sanctuary of order and control, now feels suffocating. As he sifts through old memories, a face from decades ago keeps resurfacing in his mind. The face of a woman he once loved, a love he had forsaken in the name of family duty and ambition. Her name was Isabella Rossi. She had been the daughter of a humble scholar, an idealistic man who believed in knowledge as the greatest wealth. Vittorio and Isabella had met when they were both young, and their connection had been instantaneous, a meeting of two souls in a world that seemed not to notice them. They spent hours discussing books, art, and the world beyond the walls of their constrained realities. Isabella had been passionate, fiercely intelligent, and unafraid to speak her mind. Vittorio, young and not yet hardened by the demands of his family, had been captivated by her. But their love was not to be. Vittorio's father had other plans, and Isabella, with her modest background and unconventional beliefs, did not fit into the future he had mapped out for his son. Vittorio had been torn, but in the end he chose duty over love. He married the woman his father had selected, a marriage that was advantageous for business and alliances, but devoid of passion. It was a choice that had set the course for his life, leading him down a path of power, wealth, and ultimately, loneliness. Vittorio had not seen Isabella since that painful farewell, but he had heard of her hardships after her father's passing. He knew she had struggled raising a child on her own, and he had chosen to shut those memories away, focusing instead on building his empire and fulfilling his father's legacy. But now, as he looks at the photograph he had tucked away decades ago, a picture of Isabella holding a small child in her arms, he is faced with the reality he had denied for so long. Sofia Rossi is Isabella's daughter. Vittorio's breath catches as he lets the truth sink in. The resemblance is unmistakable now. The shape of Sophia's face, the fire in her eyes, even the way she carries herself with quiet dignity amidst her hardships. He feels a flood of emotions: guilt, sorrow, regret. He wonders if Isabella ever spoke of him to Sophia, if she held on to their memories as tightly as he had buried them. He wonders what Isabella would say to him now, knowing what he had become. The weight of this revelation is almost too much to bear. Vittorio feels as if the very foundation of his life has been shaken, as if the carefully constructed walls of his existence are crumbling around him. He knows he cannot keep this truth to himself. The thought of revealing it to Leonardo and Sophia terrifies him, but he understands that the longer he keeps it hidden, the greater the betrayal becomes. When he finally gathers the courage to speak, it is with a heavy heart and trembling hands. He calls Leonardo and Sophia to his study, the room where so many pivotal moments in the De Luca family's history have taken place. It is a room filled with echoes of the past, and now it is the setting for a confrontation that will change everything. As they sit before him, Vittorio struggles to find the right words. He knows there is no easy way to say what must be said, no way to soften the blow of the truth. Leonardo senses his father's unease, his usual stern demeanor replaced by a strange vulnerability. There is a long silence before Vittorio begins to speak, his voice low and strained. He tells them about Isabella, about their love, and the choice he made to walk away. He speaks of the guilt he carried for abandoning her, the pain of seeing her struggle while he built his empire, and the cowardice of never seeking her out again. As he speaks, his voice falters, the weight of his words choking him. Sophia listens in stunned silence, her hands clenched in her lap. The revelation is like a blow to her chest, knocking the wind out of her. Isabella had never spoken of Vittorio, not directly. She had mentioned a man from her past, a love she had lost, but she had kept the details vague. Perhaps to protect Sophia from the bitterness of that betrayal. To hear the truth now, from the man himself, feels like a betrayal all over again. When Vittorio finally reaches the crux of his confession, that Sophia is his daughter, Isabella's child, there is no dramatic outburst, no immediate reaction. The silence in the room is deafening. Sophia stares at him, her face pale and expressionless, as if her mind cannot process the enormity of what she has just heard. Leonardo feels a rush of conflicting emotions: shock, confusion, anger, and a deep sense of betrayal. His entire life has been shaped by his father's decisions, and now to learn that those decisions included abandoning a woman he loved and a daughter he never acknowledged. It is almost too much to bear. Leonardo's voice is the first to break the silence, shaking with barely contained rage. He demands to know why his father never told him, why he let them live in ignorance of this shared history. Vittorio tries to explain, to make sense of his choices, but his words sound hollow even to his own ears. He speaks of duty, of the weight of family expectations, but these justifications fall flat in the face of the pain his choices have caused. Sophia, still reeling from the revelation, finally finds her voice. Her words are sharp, laced with years of suppressed anger and sorrow. She confronts Vittorio, accusing him of abandoning her mother and leaving them to fend for themselves in a world that showed them no mercy. She speaks of Isabella's struggles, the sacrifices she made to raise Sophia, and the pain of watching her mother's health deteriorate, while the man who could have helped them lived a life of luxury. Vittorio listens in silence, each word cutting him deeper than any wound. There is no immediate resolution, no reconciliation in that moment. The wounds are too fresh, the emotions too raw. But as the conversation continues, something shifts. Leonardo and Sofia begin to understand that Vittorio's actions, while unforgivable, were not born out of malice, but out of fear and weakness. They see a man who is deeply flawed, a prisoner of his own rigid beliefs, and they realize that holding on to their anger will only perpetuate the cycle of pain. It takes time, days, weeks, perhaps even months, for the three of them to begin to heal. The decision to forgive is not made in a single moment, but rather through a series of small steps, quiet conversations, and shared moments of vulnerability. Vittorio makes it clear that he does not expect forgiveness, but he is willing to do whatever it takes to make amends, to help Sofia and Leonardo build a future free from the shadows of the past. For Leonardo, forgiveness is not about excusing his father's actions, but about finding a way to move forward without being consumed by resentment. He begins to see his father not as the unyielding authority figure he had always known, but as a man struggling with his own demons. This realization allows him to let go of some of the anger he has carried for so long, to make space for understanding and compassion. For Sofia, the path to forgiveness is more difficult. The revelation of her true parentage forces her to confront not only the pain of her past, but also the complex feelings she has for a man who is both a stranger and her father. But as time passes, she comes to see that holding on to her anger will not bring her mother back, nor will it change the past. It is a slow and painful process, but she begins to open herself up to the possibility of forgiveness. Not for Vittorio's sake, but for her own. As the three of them work to rebuild their relationships, they find themselves embarking on a journey of redemption and transformation. Vittorio, once so focused on preserving his family's legacy through wealth and power, begins to see the value of humility and compassion. He dedicates himself to supporting Sofia's artistic endeavors and to using his resources to help those who have been overlooked by society. It is not an easy transition, and he faces resistance from those who still see him as the ruthless businessman he once was. But he is determined to leave behind a legacy of kindness and generosity, to atone for the mistakes of his past. Leonardo and Sofia, now free from the secrets and lies that once defined their lives, find themselves charting a new course together. Their relationship, once a marriage of convenience and necessity, evolves into a partnership built on mutual respect and shared values. They decide to transform the De Luca estate into a center for art and culture, a place where artists from all backgrounds can come together to create and collaborate. It is a way to honor Sofia's mother, Isabella, and to build a future that is not defined by wealth or status, but by creativity and community. Through their efforts, the De Luca family begins to forge a new legacy, one that is not rooted in tradition or power, but in the pursuit of art, justice, and understanding. Vittorio, Leonardo, and Sofia each find their own path to redemption, and in doing so, they transform not only their lives, but the lives of those around them. It is a long and difficult journey, but in the end, they find a sense of peace and purpose that had once seemed impossible. As the days turn into weeks and then months, the De Luca estate begins to shift from its previous image of opulence and isolation into a place of growth and transformation. Leonardo and Sofia commit themselves to their vision of turning the grand property into a center for art and culture, driven by their shared belief in the power of creativity to heal and uplift. Slowly but steadily, their vision takes shape. The once formal and private halls of Villa de Lucca are now filled with conversations, ideas, and dreams of people from all walks of life. They open their doors to artists, writers, musicians, and thinkers, giving them space to create and collaborate without the restrictions of class or status. The De Lucca family's wealth, once a symbol of power, becomes a resource to support emerging talents, providing scholarships, residencies, and opportunities for artists who might otherwise be overlooked. The estate transforms from a symbol of old wealth to a beacon of new hope and inclusivity. Sophia, who had once been a nameless figure in the streets of Florence, now finds herself at the center of this vibrant community. She continues to paint, using her art to explore and express the many layers of her story. Her exhibitions draw increasing recognition, and she begins to find her voice not just as an artist, but as a mentor and a guide for others. She shares her journey with young artists, encouraging them to embrace their struggles and turn their pain into something beautiful and meaningful. Through her work, she keeps the memory of her mother alive, creating pieces that honor Isabella's spirit and resilience. Leonardo, meanwhile, thrives in his new role. Freed from the pressures of living up to his father's expectations, he dedicates himself fully to the center, managing its operations and expanding its reach. He works closely with Sophia, and over time, their relationship deepens beyond mere friendship or partnership. They discover a quiet but profound love built on mutual respect and shared purpose. It's not the dramatic love story one might expect, but a gentle and enduring bond that grows stronger with each passing day. The transformation of the estate doesn't go unnoticed. Word spreads throughout Florence of the new De Lucca Art and Culture Center, and visitors from all over Italy begin to flock to the estate to witness this new chapter in the De Lucca family's history. What was once seen as a house of power is now a place of creativity and collaboration, and the change in perception gradually reshapes the family's reputation in the eyes of the public. For Vittorio, this period of transformation is both humbling and redemptive. He continues to struggle with his past actions and the consequences of the choices he made, but he finds solace in watching his son and Sophia create something meaningful from the ashes of their shared history. He dedicates himself to charitable work, using his resources to fund initiatives that support education, healthcare, and the arts. It is a slow and often painful process, but it allows him to rebuild his sense of purpose and, in a way, honor Isabella's memory. Vittorio also begins to document his life story, writing down the lessons he has learned and the mistakes he has made. It's a form of atonement, a way to leave behind something honest and transparent, rather than the facade of power he had once clung to so tightly. He works with a writer he trusts, sharing stories from his past and reflecting on the choices that led him to where he is now. It is an emotionally taxing journey, but it helps him find some measure of peace with the man he once was and the man he is striving to become. As the years pass, the center grows into something beyond what Leonardo and Sophia had initially envisioned. The estate becomes a hub for artists from all over the world, a place where ideas are exchanged and creativity flourishes. They establish annual festivals and cultural events that attract visitors and patrons from across Europe, cementing the De Lucca estate as a significant cultural landmark. It becomes a place where art is not just created but celebrated, where social barriers are broken down, and where people from all backgrounds find a sense of belonging. Leonardo and Sophia also find new roles within the community. Sophia becomes an advocate for social justice and education, using her influence to bring attention to issues of poverty and inequality. She partners with local organizations to provide art education and workshops to children from underprivileged communities, giving them the same chance she was once denied. Leonardo, too, becomes a vocal supporter of change, working to reform the rigid societal structures that had once defined his family's existence. Through their efforts, they redefine the legacy of the De Luca name. It is no longer a name associated with power and privilege, but one linked to compassion, creativity, and community. The family's wealth is no longer a symbol of status, but a means to uplift and empower others. As the years go by, the De Luca family finds themselves in a place they never could have imagined. The grand estate, once so cold and imposing, is now alive with laughter, music, and the hum of creativity. The past, with all its pain and regret, is not forgotten, but it no longer holds them captive. They have chosen to acknowledge it, learn from it, and move forward in a way that honors the people they have lost and the lessons they have learned. Vittorio, now in his twilight years, spends his days in the estate's gardens, watching the young artists and visitors with a quiet sense of pride and fulfillment. He has reconciled with his son and with Sofia, and though their relationships will never be without scars, they have built something strong and enduring. Vittorio knows that he cannot change the past, but he finds peace in knowing that he has done his best to make amends and leave behind a legacy that reflects not just his mistakes, but his growth. One summer afternoon, as the estate hosts its annual cultural festival, Vittorio finds himself sitting on a bench, watching as Sofia paints a mural with a group of young artists. He sees Leonardo nearby, laughing and talking with some of the visitors. For a moment, he closes his eyes and takes in the sounds of the festival, the chatter of people, the music playing in the distance, the rustle of leaves in the warm breeze. It's a sound that fills him with a sense of contentment and gratitude. In the years that follow, the estate continues to flourish, and the De Luca Art and Culture Center becomes a beacon of creativity and change. Leonardo and Sofia's influence spreads beyond Florence, inspiring similar initiatives in other cities and communities. Their work is not just about art, but about creating spaces where people can come together, share their stories, and find hope and connection. In the final years of his life, Vittorio completes his memoir, a candid and honest account of his journey from a man driven by power to a man seeking redemption. He titles it The Measure of a Legacy, and it becomes a testament to his transformation and the lessons he has learned. It is published posthumously, and its impact is profound, not just in Florence, but across Italy. Vittorio's story serves as a reminder that it is never too late to change, to seek forgiveness, and to build a new path. The day of Vittorio's funeral is a quiet and reflective one. People from all walks of life gather to pay their respects, not just to the powerful businessman he once was, but to the man he became in the final years of his life. Leonardo and Sofia stand side by side, feeling a mix of sorrow and peace. They know that their journey is not over, but they also understand that they have come a long way from where they started. As the seasons change, the De Luca estate remains a place of transformation and new beginnings. Leonardo and Sofia continue their work, finding joy in the lives they have built and the community they have nurtured. They have created a new legacy, one defined not by wealth or power, but by creativity, compassion, and the courage to change. Years later, as they look back on their journey, they reflect on the choices that brought them to this point. They remember the pain, the challenges, and the moments of doubt. But they also cherish the growth, the forgiveness and the love that carried them through. They know that their story is not just about the past, but about the future they are building, one where art, justice, and kindness are the true measures of a life well lived. And so, the story of the De Luca family comes to an end, not in tragedy or bitterness, but in hope and renewal. The grand estate, once a symbol of old power, is now a living testament to the power of transformation and the enduring strength of the human spirit. The characters have all been changed by their journey, and in the end, they find a sense of peace and purpose that seemed so distant at the beginning of their story. The legacy of the De Luca family is no longer written in marble statues or lavish portraits, but in the lives they have touched, the art they have inspired, and the hope they have kindled in a world that is always in need of a new beginning.